very excited for this, the best episode ever.
Hi, I'm Julia.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Kelly.
And this is What You Should Read,
the podcast where we should all over our books.
And welcome back. Did we have a break last week? Now I can't remember.
No, last week was our book club episode.
Yes. Right. This week has felt 50 years long to me. Yeah. It's just been a really stressful week. So I'm happy to be here though.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
So today is a fun episode. We are talking, as if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Kelly's t-shirt, which is a Stephen King Misery t-shirt. So it is our long-awaited Stephen King episode. We are making Kelly's dreams come true.
This is the best day of my life.
So we're going to give you our ultimate guide to a little-known author. You may not have heard of him. And we're joined by a very special guest. We'll get to that in a second. But first, Kelly, what are you reading?
I just started it. I am reading the Half-Sister by Sandy Jones. It was one of my Book of the Month Club picks. I'm not sure, it was an add-on. I'm not sure if it was a new add-on or if I somehow missed it. But I loved her first book, The Other Woman, and I haven't read this one yet. I'm very excited. I am literally one chapter in, but I don't know what it is. I am in the mood for thrillers, so give me every unpleasant story possible. I am here for it.
Sounds great. Rachel, what are you reading?
I'm almost done with In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I started reading the e-arc I had from NetGalley, but then I switched to the audiobook, and the narrator is really good. So because the audiobook is on script, so I've been listening to that, and it's really cute. I'm enjoying it. And then I also just started One Day in December by Josie Silver. So I think if anyone's listened to any other episode of this podcast, they know that I love this book. So this is a reread for me. And I'm really happy I'm rereading it because it's been 2 years and it's just rediscovering it all over again. It's so much fun.
Fun. Well, I just finished this morning The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. And that book destroyed me. I sobbed at the end. And I know I am a big crier in general. I love to cry and get my emotions out, but it's funny, books don't generally make me cry. I don't know, even if it's a book where I think, oh, I'm really sad or this is very emotional, it does take a lot to make me shed actual. Oh, am I frozen?
No, I see you moving.
Rachel's frozen.
Oh no. But it looks like she might have just totally disappeared.
Yeah, I think she'll have to restart her Zoom. But you're the host now, Kelly, so you have all the power. What do you want to do?
Oh my God, this might be a really good time for my Oscar speech.
Do it. You have what? Do you have one?
No.
Oh.
But you were talking about The Great Alone, and when you said you were reading it and in the mood for something light, I texted Rachel separately, and I said I read most of that book when I was on the Bolt bus going to and from New York to see My Favorite Murder with Kathy. And I said I finished the book on the way home, and I was like bawling on the bus the entire way back.
I don't know what it is. Like I was saying, books don't normally make me cry, like actual tears, but for some reason this one did. So I totally understand. Rachel's back. Yay.
Yay, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. Can you hear us? Hey.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. My computer's not connecting to the internet for some reason.
Oh no.
So I'm on my phone right now.
Okay, sorry. No problem. That's okay.
Well, I'm glad it didn't kick you guys out too.
Kelly became the host and she changed a bunch of your settings.
Yes.
What's that mean?
No, we're just kidding.
Well, you know I can't do that, Rachel.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how to do anything.
Okay.
So I was just saying, But yeah, this book, I don't know what it is. As a reader, I don't normally cry over books, but this one it broke me. So I finished that this morning, and I kind of have a little bit of a book hangover, but I did read one chapter of Quan Barry's We Ride Upon Sticks, which I have. Yeah, it's about witches and who are field hockey players in high school in New England in the 90s or 80s, I think. So the premise sounds really cool. I don't know if I'm really interested in reading this or if I just feel like I'll have FOMO if I don't, because everyone's been talking about it.
Yeah.
So far, it's fine. I'm not far enough into it to really have an opinion yet. But the premise sounds cool, and it's a library book, and it's due back in 3 days. So if I'm going to read it, I should read it now. And I think that'll help to have that deadline, because then I can really decide quickly if I like it or not and want to continue. Because I did DNF a book recently, and I know I said recently that I'm not good at that, but I did it recently. I was really proud of myself. So I will have no problem DNFing. I don't think I'll DNF with this one. I'm sure I'll like it. But
Great. So we didn't do book news last week. So this one is a little bit of a holdover. But if you were on book Twitter, you probably saw a whole bunch of tweets talking about somebody named Deborah. And you probably saw something along the lines of, I have personally explained to you how this works, Deborah. And if you did not Google it, we're about to tell you now. So a couple weeks ago, I need to back up. There is an author named Nora Roberts. You have almost certainly heard of her. Yeah. She has been, as I explained to my mother, she has been a best-selling author for my entire life. And it turns out that's not true. She has been a best-selling author for the past 39 years. So almost literally my entire life, she has been a force in publishing.
My entire life.
Yes. And you sweet summer child. But she routinely releases at least 3, if not 4 books a year. And she just had the first book in a trilogy come out. It is, I believe, fantasy and new adult, and 2 things I don't think she writes very often. And there was a post on her blog about it. All comments were very respectful and very excited. And then there was Deborah.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
The post was about the publishing schedule for the series. So she has published book 1 in the series, and the post was a very benign announcement post. The book is out, and then the expected date for book 2 is a year from now, and book 3 2 years from now. For a fantasy series, that is totally normal. Okay, just for context. Yep.
For pretty much every author, a 1 book a year is very normal. There are a few that do more. Nora Roberts is one. James Patterson is one. Stephen King sometimes does 2, sometimes 1. Either way, if you get more than a single book a year from an author, you're very lucky. You should not rock the boat. And then Deborah. So Deborah continued repeatedly to insist that book 2 should come out much sooner than next year. And there's no reason not to. The customer is always right, which she repeated several times. And Nora's, I'm guessing, personal assistant or social media person commented and was very polite and just said, that's not how this works. It will be out next year. She is still writing the second one. So if it gets pushed out any earlier, it's not going to be a good book. It'll be rushed. It probably won't be edited properly, whatever. And Deborah would not stop. And then Nora Roberts stepped in and very, very politely explained, no, seriously, I'm still writing it. I am a human being, not a machine. My editors are human beings, not machines. Everybody involved in this, it requires human work. We can't just push stuff out. She would not listen. Mm-mm. It was, honestly, by the end, it got kind of impressive, the way she just was not listening to any sort of reason or sense,
Mm,
I guess, no conscience or no voice in her head that says, dude, stop it.
right. And I felt like I was definitely getting that secondhand embarrassment that you get for people who are just making fools of themselves. And I don't
Yes.
even know the person, but I'm like, Deborah, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Stop it.
Yeah. I have 2 points I want to make about this. Number one, I think my favorite part was when Nora Roberts repeated, again, I ask you, do you work in publishing? Because I get this a lot from people who don't know how the publishing process works, where they just think that an author writes a book, and then the publisher is just there to put all the pages together in a pretty cover that probably doesn't take a long time to design. And it's not like editing takes that long. And it's not like the sales and marketing team needs time to create a campaign to make sure people know. But no, it takes a long time to publish one book. And this publisher has a lot of other authors that they are obligated to, and they can't just drop everything, even though it is Nora Roberts. I mean, they're also obligated to her and her other books. She publishes
Right.
4 books a year sometimes. She's very
Yeah.
prolific. So yeah, it's just not a smart idea. This woman, Deborah, was suggesting that Nora Roberts' publisher hold all 3 books until they were all ready so that they could release them in a quick succession. And that's just such a bad idea financially for a business to do that. So it was just ridiculous. And I loved when Nora Roberts said, I have personally explained the process to you, Deborah. I mean, but I also want to make the point that I think Deborah needs to branch out and read other authors.
Yeah.
Now we all have our favorites, right? And I know that Nora Roberts has fans that are very loyal and read all of her books multiple times, and that's great. But I think Deborah should branch out so that she is not so insistent that Nora Roberts publish on her schedule, because maybe she has, I don't know, a Kristin Hanna book to pick up, or perhaps a Tayari Jones. So I suggest, Deborah, that you listen to the What You Should Read podcast for some recommendations so you can find some new authors to love and not harass them about their publishing schedule.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I think honestly, if there is one author that actually could make it happen that you specifically not be allowed to read one of her books in the future, it's probably Nora Roberts. Like, she could probably find out where you live and talk to the library and the bookstore near you and just be like, I will come to your town for signings every year, but that one does not get a copy of my book. Neither do their relatives. I know how presents work.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think she would, because she seems like a very lovely person, not at
Right.
all prone to grudges and pettiness like I am. But she could. I think she really could. She's
I think what we've learned is Nora Roberts does not suffer fools. So
no.
yeah.
Right. Right. Well, now that we've covered Deborah, so we're going to move on to recent acquisitions. So Julia, you said you were very excited about one of your recent acquisitions. So
I think I should go last.
you want to go last? All right.
Yeah.
Kelly, why don't you go first?
Okay. So I keep dropping my pen. I recently got The Half Sister, as you know, but I also got The Chicken Sisters by KJ Del Antonia. That might not be how you say it. And this is also Book of the Month. It looks very fun, about 2 sisters who are a little bit estranged, and then a reality show food competition type thing has them back in contact. So that sounds really fun. And I think after 2 thrillers in a row, I might be ready for something not, but we'll see. And then the other thing I got, People Like Her by Ellery Lord, I finished this morning and it was so fun. I absolutely loved it.
Good.
So I recommend that one.
All of your Book of the Month books?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Also no, because I might have a second account. We don't need to talk about that.
You got it. You did?
I did.
You didn't tell us that.
I knew.
Yeah, I did, because I said like, oh, my other one hasn't come, but I got the thriller box.
Oh, I must
Right.
have missed it. Oh, well,
We
congratulations.
do text a lot.
We do.
All right, well, I'll go next. So my book buying ban is officially over, but some of the books that I got, I didn't buy, to be fair. So during Cyber Monday week, they were giving away free copies, each day a different book in the Shauna Maguire's Wayward Children series. So I got all of those books sent to my Kindle. I also yesterday, so I was thinking about, some books that I wanted to read coming up here soon. And I've been really interested to read Jade City by Fonda Lee. And it was on Kindle sale yesterday. So I picked that up for $2.99. I was really excited. So I got that book. I also got this arc in the mail. So the author is Michael Corrida. How do you pronounce that?
I think it's Corrida, yeah.
Okay, yeah, Michael Corrida. The book is Never Far Away, and it is set to be published in February of 2021. So I'm excited to get into this. It's a really floppy paperback, which is really fun. And then I also got my Book of the Month box, which had People Like Her. So that was the one that I went with. I didn't get any add-ons this month. But I did order this book, which was recommended to us by our previous guest, Becky, on the podcast, was Sex and Vanity by Kevin Quan. And I'm so excited to have this. So yeah, I picked up a few.
Nice. Well done.
Living like you're me.
Yes.
Making up for lost time.
Yeah. All right, Julia, what do you got for me?
Well, I'm going to start with, so I had a really bad week at work, and Kelly is such a good friend and sent me a couple books to cheer me up, and it was such a surprise. Thank you so much again, Kelly. So
You're welcome.
The House of Broken Angels by Alberto Urrea. And I know nothing about this book, but I believe it's about a grandfather of this big family and living in San Diego. And I think his relationship with one of his grandchildren, I'm not exactly sure, but it has great reviews. So that sounds like it's going to be a great read. And then she also got me The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune, who I haven't read yet, but I've heard great things about. So I'm very excited about this one as well. So thank you, Kelly.
Nice.
And then for my next recent acquisition that I'm going to talk about, I will actually be back in 2 seconds.
Okay. What's happening?
I don't know. I didn't realize we were going to take breaks. Oh, did you like the Book of the Month, the stickers?
Sticker. Oh, yes. Yes, I've already put them in my planner.
Nice.
What is it? What?
I have t-shirts for each of you.
What?
If you're on. So we've been talking since the podcast started about getting t-shirts that have Kelly's catchphrase that say,
You made merch?
I have that book. I haven't read it yet. So I made t-shirts that say, I have that book. I haven't read it yet. And they have our website on it too. So I have.
This is the best thing ever.
So I will be sending each of you one in the mail. We have a limited number, so maybe we'll do a giveaway or something, but we'll update everyone about that on social media. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, please. But yeah, so t-shirts.
That's amazing.
I'm so happy.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
Well, on that exciting note, I think we need to go to the break. And
Yes.
when we're back, we're going to have a very exciting guest to talk all about Stephen King's and his, many, many books that he has published.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. We are joined today by, podcast mom, Becky Hall. she has very graciously, decided to join us for this episode about Stephen King's work. Mom, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm very excited.
I can't wait.
Yeah. We're very excited to have you. And we just kind of want to know, what is your history with reading Stephen King's books? How'd you get into them? Tell us about it.
Sure. Actually, the first book I ever read was a novel by Stephen King.
Wow.
I mean, other than children's books, Dr. Seuss and whatnot, but I was in 6th grade and I read Salem's Lot.
Wow.
And I remember it was in the summer and we were at camp and I had to go in the car and turn on the dome light to read it, because we had no electricity after dark. And
right.
And so it made it even scarier, right? And my cousins knew what I was reading, so they were like banging on the car and scaring me, and it was just the greatest book. And that got me hooked not only on Stephen King, but my obsession with vampires.
Well, and you have to say what state you were in. You were in Maine because you live in
Maine. Yeah, I lived in Maine. I grew up in Maine. Stephen King.
It's this, that sounds like the setting of a Stephen King novel right there.
Yeah,
reading a book by
Webb River in Carthage, Maine, in my car, late at night, reading Salem's Lot.
Wow. That's great. And now, Mom, I know that so having grown up in Maine and lived here pretty much your whole life, have you ever had any encounters with the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen King?
I have, actually.
Tell us about it.
So I was a sophomore at the University of Maine, Orono, and the year was 1981. And Stephen King actually was a faculty there. He was teaching, literature classes or writing classes. I don't know what. I mean, I wasn't taking a class by him. Very select few people could get into those classes. But I actually had a friend who was in one of his classes, and he had offered to do a talk in one of the dormitories on Hilltop. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys know where Hilltop is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was living in Bangor at the time, but he called me up, my friend Steve from high school, and he said, "Hey, Stephen King's coming. He's going to do a talk in the basement of our dormitory, and there's only like 40 of us are going to be there." So he goes, "I saved you a spot." So, I got in my car and went to Orono, and so we're in the basement of this dormitory, and and in he comes and he just starts talking about his writings and whatnot, and then he asked for any questions, and I said, "Well, I have one." I go, "What's the scariest book you ever wrote?" And he said, "The scariest book I wrote has not been published." And he said, "I haven't even shown it to Tabitha, because as you all know, if you're a Stephen King fan, she reads everything before it goes to publishing, right? She's like his first editor, if you will."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "I haven't even shown it to her. I don't dare to." He goes, "I wrote it. It disturbed me so much, I put it in a drawer."
Oh my God.
And he wouldn't tell us what it was, and then we moved on. Somebody else asked another question and blah, blah, blah. And
Wow.
So I found out years later that the book he was talking about was Pet Sematary.
I was going to ask that.
Oh my gosh.
So he did an interview with the New York Times just like 4 years ago, I think, Kelly, where he talked about, the fact that when he wrote it, it was so disturbing because at the time he had young children. He was living on a road just like that road where, Gage was killed on. And he goes, "I was so disturbed. I couldn't stop writing it." He finished the book, but then he put it on his desk and he didn't do anything with it. He didn't even show it to Tabitha because it was so disturbing. But then, a couple of years later, I think he published it in 1983. I don't know if that's correct or not, but somewhere right around there is when he published it. I remember going to see the movie, Rachel, when I was pregnant for you.
Oh no.
Because the theater attendant said, "No extra charge for that."
Oh, jeez.
My belly.
Thanks a lot.
But yeah, it was, I mean, I couldn't wait to read the book the minute it came out. And then of course, the minute the movie came out, I was first in line to see it.
Wow.
All of his movie adaptations have just been incredible, I think. I haven't been disappointed in any of them.
I agree. I think, and I've, listeners, I'm sort of moderating the discussion because I haven't really read much of his work. But I have seen a lot of the movies adapted from his work, and most of them are really high quality, really good movies. Some of my favorites, even The Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, are all two of my favorite movies. So yeah, I agree. The adaptations are good.
And he definitely has a part in all of the movies. He has a say in the screenplay, and sometimes has a cameo appearance in many of them. So that, it's kind of cool too for us, true fans, who want to see him.
Yeah. Cool. Great. Well, that's a really exciting story. I don't think I had ever heard that story. That's really cool, Mom.
It was fun.
You're such a Stephen King fan that I'm just so happy for you that you had that experience too, because I don't remember. I mean, my association with Stephen King is very closely associated with you, Mom, because you introduced me to his books. I think the first Stephen King book I read, you gave me when I was, I don't know, I wasn't very old, but it was Firestarter. It's a very scary book. And I don't read a lot of horror, but I did read it and I really liked it. And then I remember camping up to Weld every summer, and there's a place called the Book Emporium, which is a bookstore out of this sweet old couple's house. You can walk there from the camp, and they just sell a bunch of paperbacks out of their garage, and it's the world's most wonderful place. And I would always go, and I would get Babysitter's Club books and Stephen King. So
yeah,
I love that. Kelly, Stephen King is your favorite author, right?
Yes. I have a lot of favorite authors, but the absolute favorite is Stephen King. And this is going to sound like a one-upsmanship, and I swear to you it is not. But I started reading Stephen King in 4th grade. And I feel like that pretty much is about all you would need to know. And that would explain a lot about me.
What was the first book you read?
I think it was Misery. I started it. I couldn't get all the way through it because that's 1,100 pages, and it's a lot.
Right.
But then I read Misery. I read Carrie I read Carrie a whole bunch of times in middle and high school. I loved The Shining. I loved Salem's Lot. If I am in a place that has a second floor, after I go to bed, I do not look out the window because of Salem's Lot.
Oh, wow.
Do I think there will be a vampire child hovering outside the window? No. But if there is one, I'm not going to see it.
That's great.
I mean, is it, Rachel?
Well, I'm getting so excited to hear all of your recommendations because for me, I read Bag of Bones. That's the only one of his that I've gotten all the way through. And I liked it. I thought it was a decent ghost story. It was scary, but not like, it didn't really give me nightmares as much as I've had nightmares from less scary books, less overtly scary books, I should say. And I thought Bag of Bones was good. It was an engrossing tale. I got maybe 700 pages into The Stand and then gave up. I was more than halfway through, but I don't know, I didn't care. I think it was just too long. There was too much fat, needed to be trimmed. And I don't know. I guess I haven't found the right one of his that really kind of made me want to read more. There is one that I think I really do want to read, which I think Julia is going to talk about. So I'll hold off on saying which one it is. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of hear which books you all are going to recommend, and maybe I'll pick something else up. So Mom, we'll start with you. What's the first Stephen King book that you would like to recommend?
So, Rachel, for you, I know you like to read series. So I think you would enjoy the Gunslinger series.
You know what? I forgot I have read The Gunslinger. So I've read 2 of his books all the way through. But
And I read that together in the summer one time. And
yes.
I think you would really enjoy that. There's some great characters that
Mhm.
brings to life in there. You know, Roland, the gunslinger, is, you know, is a hero, of course. And then Odette, you know, his compassion he has for this woman who's in a wheelchair, and it's time travel. You know, there's just it's everything in one. You know, it's a Western, it's a time travel, it's science fiction, it's pretty provocative, actually.
There's a love story.
If you want to get into a series from Stephen King, Gunslinger series.
Okay, maybe I'll pick that back up.
Which book in that series is your favorite one, Mom?
Oh, it's called The Picking of the Three, or it's not that. What is that?
The Drawing of the Three.
Drawing of the Three. Yeah, that was my favorite. That was really, really good. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Thank you, Kelly.
Good.
Happy to help.
It's been a while. Yeah, it was a while ago I read it. That's one thing I want to reread. I think I want to reread all of that. Yeah.
I want to do that too. We should do that this year in 2021. We should reread them all.
You can have your own Stephen King book club, Dark Tower series. Kelly, what's your first recommendation?
Well, I just want to say that if you did not continue because you didn't love The Gunslinger, the rest of the series is much, much better.
Yeah.
When I think it was the same year I moved to Baltimore, I decided that I was going to read everything he had published up to that point.
Wow.
And most of it was a reread. But I had never read The Stand all the way through, because every time I started, I would get sick. Like I would start sneezing and coughing and exhibiting Captain Tripp symptoms. So I would just be like, no, I'm done. So I would get about 150 pages in, roundabout where the entire country is dying of this flu, and just be like, I can't right now.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to read the Dark Tower series, which I had never read, and The Stand. And I initially was going to do in publishing order, but I knew that Salem's Lot played a part later in the series. So I decided I was going to reread that right before and finish The Stand finally right before. So it was a lot, but I loved it. And I would definitely do all of that again too. But my first recommendation is actually Misery, because it's a good book for people who love books like we do. And throwing back to the book news, I feel like Deborah might be a little bit of an Annie Wilkes type person.
Yes.
Someone who's a little bit obsessive with their favorite author, someone who thinks that maybe what they think is more important than what the author is doing. I just reread Misery with my online book club, and it's really good, and it really holds up.
Wow.
And I think, as people that love books and reading and authors, it's a little disconcerting to see how close we can sometimes come to Annie Wilkes, but also the part where it's like, okay, see, that's where it goes from normal fandom to like, you should be put away someplace.
Yeah.
And the movie's great.
I have seen the movie. The movie is excellent.
Yeah.
Great. Julia, how about you? What's your first pick?
So my number one recommendation is a little different, but this is my favorite Stephen King book. I've read it 3 or 4 times. It's On Writing. And Rachel, I think you would love this book. It is, even if you just read part of it, if you read the first half, because the first half is his memoir of growing up in Maine and living with his mom and his brother, and then going to college and meeting Tabitha. There's a great scene where he talks about the first time he met her was at this poetry reading, and he was just so like into her. Like she reads this poem that's so different from what everyone else is reading. He's really impressed by her writing, and also her foul mouth and red hair is what attracts him. So she reads her poem and she sits down and he's sitting on the floor next to her, and he kind of like rubs her leg a little bit, and they just like smile. Yeah, it's very like forward, and they just and she just like smiles at him, gives him a knowing look, and then it's history, right? So
Aww.
yeah, it's a great. And then he talks about how he, in the writing part of the book, he does talk about, like you were saying, Mom, that she's his first reader, right? And he trusts her opinion so much. And I love that. There's one great scene he's talking about, I forget which book, but he gave her a book, his latest book, and he's waiting for her to give feedback, and she's, you know, reading it, and he keeps looking at her. She's like, stop being so goddamn needy. Because he wants to know like how she feels about it. So there's just so many funny anecdotes like that in the book. And I do love to write. And so whenever I want to be re-inspired to start writing again, I'll read this book. Also, I work in publishing, and there's some great advice in there for anyone who's looking to get published. And I actually give this advice to people who want to talk to me about publishing a book, because I'm not an editor, but I just tell them what Stephen King told me in that book. And they're always like, wow, thank you for the amazing advice. And I want to be like, read on writing.
Yeah.
Julia, I gave you that book for a gift.
You did. Yep. And I love it so much. I think it's downstairs. I think I gave it to Dorian to read.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Great.
I just want to say too, she's the reason we even have Stephen King to begin with. Really kind of twice, but he wrote Carrie, and he didn't think it was any good, so he threw it away, and she pulled it out of the trash can and started reading it, and basically made him submit it. So
wow.
And then too, in the 80s, he had a very well publicized addiction problem. And I think her intervention is probably what saved him, because she dumped like all these beer cans and like, I think drug paraphernalia too, right? Like dumped them on the floor from the trash can and was like, you are killing yourself and we're not going to watch you do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
he's lucky.
Yeah.
Wow. Already some great recommendations that are sounding good to me. So yes, I've seen Misery the movie, and it was great.
One more story.
Okay.
So I think part of the inspiration for Misery, I don't think it's a secret where in Maine they live, and especially their house. I think if you were to think, I wonder what a horror novelist's house would look like, the answer is probably the house they live in. But before they built the fence, it was a lot more accessible. And he was off somewhere, like maybe on tour or something. And she went down to the kitchen one night for a snack or something. And there is a random fan just in their kitchen. And apparently she was just kind of like, huh. And very calmly and casually just sort of turned around, went upstairs to where the kids were, locked them all in like a bathroom or a bedroom or something, and called the police, but was like very calm about all of it, didn't start screaming, didn't freak out the horrible person who thought that Stephen King would like a random visit. And I'm pretty sure that was where Annie Wilkes first came from.
That was very, very Queen Elizabeth of her.
Yeah.
That is so scary, and it does not surprise me. When I was in college one year, my friends and I, on Halloween, we drove over to their house and took pictures outside the fence, because it's just like, ooh, it's Halloween, or Stephen King's house, you know, dumb kids, but
things you can do when you live in Maine.
Yeah,
that's right. Things you can do. Yes.
So I don't know if you followed the news this past year, but they had a big oak tree that was dying on their property right in front of their house. And so they hired a artist who does wood sculpturing to turn that tree into, because they were cutting down the tree, they had to, but to turn the trunk into, it's like a library. It looks like a library.
Oh, a little free library.
But there's also like characters from some of his books carved
Wow.
into this tree stump. So I will send you the link of the
Yes,
picture
please.
of that. It's beautiful. And so that's in
Oh,
front of their house now. And so Kelly, when you come to Maine next year, we'll
Yes,
take you
please.
there.
yes. We'll put that link in the show notes. Thanks, Mom.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I will apologize in advance because should we happen to run into Stephen King someplace, I will embarrass you. Like, I will probably cry. There's a good chance I won't be able to talk, but
It's okay. I know
I
the
mean,
diner. I know the diner that he eats at frequently in the summer.
mhm.
Oh my God, we gotta go.
And we'll just hang out there until he shows up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
Wow.
seriously though, it will
That's
be
near me.
deeply
That's actually
embarrassing
near me.
for
Yeah.
you.
All right. So round 2, Mom, what's your second pick?
Oh, so it's interesting, that I wrote this book down, before when you guys asked me to write down my 3 top books. And I think about, with the pandemic and everybody's getting pets this year, my second favorite book was Cujo.
Whoa.
I haven't read that one.
It's so good. And
It's
again,
really-
I think I have this obsession with horror, but this was a beautiful Saint Bernard who was, had rabies and just was killing people, and it just was scary. I
That
loved
does
it.
sound scary.
And then the movie was so good.
Wow.
And again, I think I read it in 8th grade, and I've read it again since. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that book a lot
yeah,
growing up.
Cujo number 2.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And it's so sad because like he's a really good dog. It's not like he's a mean dog. It's not like he wants to hurt people. He chases a rabbit and gets like partly stuck, and a rabid bat like bites his nose.
Yeah.
So
Aw.
he can't help it. He's
Mhm.
sick, and nobody notices that his face is like a gross wound because it's so sad.
Wow.
And I love the book. I love the movie. The movie has E.T.'s mom, Dee Wallace Stone, and the little boy is Danny Pintaro from Who's the Boss. And it's so great and so sad. And it's still super scary because, he does that really well too.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Kelly, what's your second pick?
Julia, what's your second one? Because I have one that kind of plays off one of yours.
Oh,
Right. I'll go
Yeah.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go, Julia.
Okay, so my second recommendation is 11/22/63. Mom, have you read this one yet?
Oh.
Okay, so yes, you would love it. And Rachel, I also think you would enjoy it. Although I will say, this is one of those books that contributes to the reason Stephen King needs an editor who will actually rein him in. His books are just way too long sometimes.
Yeah.
I will say that. But
That book is perfect and you're wrong. Keep going.
In this case, I loved it because I loved the book and I did want as much as, was in it. So it's about a guy who is like living in Lisbon, Maine. He's an English teacher and he finds this diner that has a portal in time to go back in time to, I think, like 1958. And the owner of this diner enlists him to help him because he's like, we got to go back in time and prevent JFK from getting killed, because this guy believes that that's where all of society's ills stemmed from, is from that assassination. So he's been trying to do this. He keeps failing, but he's learned all this stuff and he passes it along to the main character. So then he starts going back in time and just like lives a bunch of different lives, because every time he goes back to the same day. So if he fails, he then comes home and then he tries again.
Whoa.
but every time he does it, he makes a little wrinkle in the timeline. And so, yeah, so it changes things. So, but it's just great. It's about time travel, which I love books about that. You get to learn, read about this time period in American history, which is fascinating. And it's got great character development, a great plot. It's a super fun read, and it's very long, but I loved it. So yeah, 11/22/63.
That does sound like my kind of, I think I would like that. I know my husband loved it. Will, he loved that one. So
Yeah.
It's so good. It's one of his best, full stop, but it's definitely one of his best of his more recent stuff. And another thing I love about it is that it's a bookend with my second pick, which is The Dead Zone. And the reason why I say that is that the big question in both is it okay to kill someone if you know they're going to do something awful, if you will kill them before they do something awful? So when you do it, you are in effect murdering an innocent person. And in The Dead Zone, it's about this man named John Smith, who gets in a car accident and is in a coma for about 4.5 years. And when he wakes up, he is a medical miracle, but he is also different. If he touches you, he can learn things about you. And sometimes it's things that will happen. Sometimes it's things that have happened. And in the case of one nurse, it is something that is happening right then. So he touches this woman's hand and he starts yelling at her that her house is on fire and her kids are there alone. And, of course, she's like, what is wrong with you? Don't tell people that. That's not true. It's not funny. And it turns out it is true. And because she did end up calling a neighbor to check, her kids got out okay.
Wow.
And the movie's really good too, with Christopher Walken and Brooke Allen, I think is her name, as his girlfriend at the time. But one of the major plots is that there's this man named Greg Stilson, and he is running for congressman, I think, at the point in the book where we meet him. And he, Johnny's ex is working for his campaign because he seems like this young, idealistic guy, just completely wonderful. And when Johnny meets him at a rally, he sees that none of it is true, that he's basically very disingenuous and a liar, and that if he is allowed to keep going, he's going to win the congressional seat, and it's not going to stop there. Like, he's just going to keep ascending political power until he is ultimately the president and he will kill us all.
Whoa.
And you might have heard some articles or think pieces comparing Greg Stilson to our current but not for much longer president.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he has to decide, okay, and at this point we know that what he's seeing is true. So it's not really a question of, can this be trusted? But it's, is it okay to kill an innocent person if you know you're preventing something awful? And it's a really interesting thing to wrestle with.
Yeah. Wow. Mom, have you read that?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. That's great.
Wow.
It was hard for me to pick my top three because they're all so good. Right, Shelley?
Yeah. He's written he's published over 60 books at this point.
Wow.
And there have been, I think, literally 3 that I don't love. And that's a pretty great
that's a good record.
Yeah. And one of them is his nonfiction book on baseball, so the fault with that one is definitely me.
Just the subject matter.
The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
Oh no, I love The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. No, it's Faithful, which he wrote with Stuart Onan, because Stephen King is a lifelong Red Sox fan. And the Red Sox as you may know, not necessarily a winning team, and it seems like they have broken his heart every year. And so he and Stuart Onan, this seems like a lie, but hand to God, it's the truth. They get a book deal to write about a season in the life of a Red Sox fan and just the way that it breaks their heart year after year. And it just so happens that the year they pick is the one where they win the World Series.
2004.
2004, yeah. We all remember where we were.
Mhm.
I just bought my grandson Gabe, the girl who loved Tom Gordon. So
Oh, that's a
Oh.
wonderful one. I love
that's
that
a
one
great
too.
first Stephen King book for him to read.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
Nice. Aw.
And
Wow.
honestly, with Faithful, I think if they had written more about like their experiences of fandom and just having their heart broken, I would have liked it, because I liked all the personal stuff. But
Mhm.
instead, it's like running down the game and like batting averages and stuff. And I'm like,
You're like, I don't care.
yeah, can we not, please?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So, I mean, I'm glad we're doing this, because I think I will try Stephen King again, and I'm excited to hear everybody's third picks, because I was getting a little frustrated, because I also recently tried reading one of his that just, I think I might like it, but I don't know. It's like I can't care enough to keep going. So I don't know why. Maybe it's just the mood
You
I've
gotta
been
find
in
the right
lately.
book.
I gotta
Yeah.
find the right book. Yep. So with that being said, Mom, what's your third pick?
So I have to pick The Stand. I know, we talked a little bit about it earlier, the length of it, but it's good versus evil. It's it's kind of what we're dealing with now, and
Yeah.
and so I go back to that. I would love to read it again. The movie adaptation was phenomenal, and I just love that good prevailed over evil in the end.
Yeah.
And it happened in Colorado.
Is it set in Colorado?
Huh?
It's set in Colorado.
They eventually get there.
That's where The Stand happens.
Right. Okay.
So like the evil's in Las Vegas. I think the good is in Maine.
Yep.
When they meet in the middle.
Yep.
Or at least
Yeah. I liked the from what I read, I liked the old woman character from Nevada.
Yeah.
She was like 109 or something.
Like the Oracle. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
she was cool.
I haven't read it. Yeah.
And then your dad keeps quoting, like you guys have heard your dad say MOON. That's so cool. He's a key character in this book. And he's like a scout that they send out, because he's very simple-minded. So, they can't read him. The evil can't read, what he's sent out to do for the good side.
Yeah. Maybe I'll finish it one day.
Yeah.
Get the audiobook or something, Rach.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing, and then the library took it back, and
yeah.
I was like, I could re-request it, but I don't care enough to.
Actually, the audiobook of 11/22/63 is how I read that one. So
yeah, I think that's how Will read it too, so I might have to do that. All right, Kelly, pick number 3. What did you pick?
I picked The Shining, which is also set in Colorado, one of his very few not set in Maine books. And okay, so when I was in elementary school, everybody in my class was reading Stephen King. And it was a weird form of peer pressure, but kind of a really good one. And I remember one of our teachers was very upset that we were reading it, and she lectured the entire class like, I don't think it's appropriate. If I see any of these books out, I'm going to confiscate it.
What?
And we're going to tell
Censorship.
your parents. We're going to tell your parents what you're reading. And even now, I'm so annoyed by that, because it's like, we're in elementary school. How do you think we have money?
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, my after school babysitting job pays so much. It's like our parents are buying us these books.
Right.
And,
Clearly.
granted, it was still fairly early in his career. But Misery had already come out. It was the year Misery was in theaters. So it's like, our parents aren't dumb. They know, they've heard of Stephen King. Like, but anyway, I'm still so mad about it. Like, I will probably die mad about it.
I think that's a common mistake some adults can make in, like, when they see a kid reading a book that they think might be maybe too old or in some way inappropriate for them. And instead of like still encouraging the reading while also like making sure that they're like okay and that the material they're reading is not like, confusing them or anything, or like giving them nightmares or whatever that teacher's issue was. I don't know what her bigger issue was. They're just like, no, stop it. And it's like, no, you want to encourage kids to read. And if they found something that they love to read, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so The Shining is one of the first ones of his I've read, and it deals with a lot of his familiar themes, children specifically in danger. But he writes about writers a lot.
Yes.
And he also writes about addiction quite a bit. And Jack Torrance, who is played by Jack Nicholson in the movie, is an aspiring novelist who is finally sober, but kind of tenuously sober after a pretty big period of drinking a lot. And the drinking makes him clumsy, which isn't surprising, but it makes him mean. And they end up, he and his wife and their small son, who is psychic, they end up taking this job as a caretaker for this hotel in Colorado, the Overlook. And it's based on a real hotel. The Stanley is the real hotel. And the real one, is apparently super haunted. And that seems to be the case for the Overlook as well. And even if it weren't haunted, having people in this really remote area where, once the snow starts, they're going to be stuck there until spring, basically. Like, it will be impossible for them to leave. And it feels timely for this time in our life too. Like, we may not hopefully be dealing with malevolent beings that are able to use our entire habitat against us. But now, where it feels like, okay, well, this house is all that I'm in forever, it feels like it feels very timely. But it's a good story, and I think it's one of his scariest. It's just very real sense of dread.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one that I don't know that I could do.
I think it moves slowly enough that you could.
Really? Okay.
Like, I think at the point where you're like, oh, I maybe should not have started this, it'll be too late, and you'll be really invested.
Yeah.
Has anyone read his YA fantasy? I can't remember the title of it yet right now. But I remember reading like a good chunk of it. No, it's like something about a dragon, I think, right, Mom? Do you remember?
Oh, The Eyes of the Dragon. Yes, I read that too.
Is it The Eyes of the Dragon?
Not sure.
The two fantasies he has for younger readers are The Eyes of the Dragon, which is sort of a fairy tale, but a Stephen King style fairy tale. And then The Talisman, which is sort of parallel universes that you can jump in and out of. I think you would like both.
I think I would like that one too. The Eyes of the Dragon, I read part of it at my Uncle Danny's house. We were there for a holiday or something, but I don't think I ever finished it. But I keep thinking I want to go back to it because it's got like dragons and wizards and it's a fantasy.
Cool.
So
good.
So you might like that, Rach. But my last pick might come as a shock, but it's Carrie. If you haven't read Carrie yet, you definitely should. And I know that's weird for me to say because I don't read a ton of horror, but what I do like are revenge stories against mean girls in high school. So this definitely brings that to the table. So, I mean, I think probably everyone knows the story and has seen the movie. But, you know,
I have seen the
Carrie
movie.
has telekinesis powers. Her mom's, you know, this insane woman and a religious zealot and kind of keeps her, you know, sheltered from everything. And then the girls at school make fun of her. She gets her period in the shower after gym, and then she just goes crazy at prom. And oh my God, it's great. So I don't know. I think it was one of those summer reads for me when I was in high school, and it's not very long, so you get through it pretty quickly. But yeah, it's a good one.
Nice.
And I can't believe he almost threw it away.
I can't believe that. That is insane to me.
I just want to say, as someone who's seen the movie and read the book probably about 20 times each, because I read it a lot in my younger years. I don't think it's a horror novel. I think it's a tragedy. Like,
yeah,
this poor sweet girl,
yeah,
she's picked on at school all the time, and then she goes home and her mom is the worst, and she has like maybe an hour and a half of actual happiness, and then it all falls apart. And I love it, and it's devastating.
Wow.
Agreed.
I should read that.
Well, you have a lot of recommendations now, Rach.
I do. And I have to think about, might take some thinking, figure out what I want to try first, what I think might, you know, kind of hook me the most. I know Mom has some books some more books that she wants to talk about that she hasn't read either. So tell me about your books there, Mom.
The Dome.
Under the Dome.
Yeah, that was long. I couldn't get through it. It was just
this is another 1,100 page book. And I've had it on my shelf. I haven't started it because of the daunting task to read a book this big. But when I open it up, there's a map. And girls, we live under the dome.
I know.
Or you do, at least.
Peru is right here.
Yeah.
This is where you grew up, right?
Mhm.
They're fictional roots, but it's Route 108, basically.
Yep.
So I'm excited to read that. That's my next read.
Nice. Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, it's a toss up between On Writing or possibly The Dead Zone sounds really good.
It is,
but
really
maybe, maybe 11/22/63 and The Dead Zone, maybe like concurrently. I don't know which one first, but kind of close to each other. I'm not sure, but I guess I'll have to think on it a little more, and the listeners will know which one I choose, because I'm sure I'll talk about it on the podcast in another episode.
Mom,
which other ones haven't you read?
Me or Mom?
Becky.
What's that?
Which other ones haven't you read?
Oh, Hearts in Atlantis.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I have Bag of Bones here I haven't read yet, and Desperation I'm halfway through. And then I brought out The Green Mile, because
I love that one.
When it was initially published, it was like chapters that were published, small books.
Yeah, it was like 4 novellas, right?
First 3 or 4, and so I never got all 6. Then I got the complete volume, which I've seen the movie 100 times since. So I haven't actually read through all six sections or
it's so good
chapters.
I almost made that my third pick. It was definitely a toss, but this is a good one.
Such a classic. It's a classic.
Yeah.
So I want to reread, you know, because I didn't get through all of the sections that were mailed to me when I signed up for it. And this last one is Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Oh yeah.
What's that? Is that short stories or?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about his like pen name and his short stories that he did.
Oh yeah, Richard Bachman.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I used to read Bachman a lot too, you know, like the Running Man and
Yeah, Shawshank.
yeah.
Oh no, Shawshank was in
Oh, that was under King.
yeah, that was in Different Seasons with the story that became Stand By Me too.
Right.
Mm,
Yep. Yeah.
cool.
That's
Julia,
my
remember-
favorite of his novella collections,
Yeah.
Different Seasons.
I think we can all agree he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Definitely a hard worker.
Yep.
Putting out all
Yeah.
those books. All right. So any final thoughts, Mom?
Just, you know, I love that he is an author from the state of Maine. I think he's put Maine on the map
Mhm.
From a journalism standpoint. I look forward to continuing to read anything. I know he has another new one just coming out.
Mhm.
And I look forward to bringing Kelly to like some of the places in Maine that he
Writes
is.
about and
And
visits.
we get a Stephen King sighting so she can, you know, melt.
Great.
And just one last thing, my brother Danny, who was an avid Stephen King fan, he was part of the book, you know, Stephen King book club. So he received all his books and classic hardbound, which now that he's traveling on the road in his RV are stored in his storage container in South Dakota. But he actually met a gentleman on the road out in Arizona from Maine, whose cousin was the person who ran over Stephen King.
Whoa.
So yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Fun and awful story. So when that accident happened, I was in Arizona visiting Jen, and she and I both, you know, huge Stephen King fans, and he wasn't expected to survive. So her parents sat us down and said, you know, Stephen King was in a really bad accident. They don't think he's going to make it. And we were like hysterical.
Yeah.
I think me especially, but yeah, like they really did not think he was going to make it. And there is a story that Stephen King bought that van and had it destroyed by like a sledgehammer. I don't know if it's true. I like to believe it's true.
Yeah, it is. And there was a news thing about it here in Maine. And he actually, we took care of him in my hospital system. So he, you know, was brought to Bridgeton Hospital, which is part of Central Maine Healthcare, and then flown to Central Maine Medical Center, which is our trauma center. And he was cared for there. And he donated money not only to Bridgeton Hospital, but to Rumford Hospital to build helipads for a life flight to land right on campus.
That's how you got your helipad? Yeah. I didn't know that.
The Stephen King Foundation. He also donated, the Stephen King Foundation donated money for us to get a generator at Swift River.
Mm-hmm.
And because we lose power a lot and our practices crippled when they lose power. And
yeah.
Right. And then you lose like medicine too that's refrigerated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's done a lot for our hospital, our particular hospital system.
Yeah.
As a result of the care he received. There's a story, and I don't know if it's true, about a nurse anesthetist who was taking care of him, and because he had multiple surgeries, and you know, he had one of his books on his cart, and Stephen King says, if you don't, he goes, take good care of me, and I'll tell you the ending.
Classic.
I don't know how true it is. You know, everybody did a really good job of protecting his privacy during that stay.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty amazing, actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
My other, I have two favorite stories kind of about that. Kathy Bates sent him a thing of flowers, and the note was "Got Novril," which is the painkiller that Paul Sheldon was addicted to in Misery.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh.
so he also took like a really long break between, I think, books 3 and 4 of the Dark Tower series.
Mhm.
And he almost, I mean, since he almost died, those books would not have been finished.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
I think that's why he really got back on it.
Oh,
Wow.
he got like letters from fans with like there was one letter he talked about, and I think he referenced it in another book. It was a picture of a teddy bear on a noose, and it said, "Release the next book in the Dark Tower, or the teddy bear gets it." You know,
What?
he was getting letters like that. It was like,
Oh my
it was
goodness.
crazy because people are
Yeah.
like, you know, he's in the middle of this wonderful series that we all love.
Yeah.
Wow.
Release the next book in the Gunslinger series, or the teddy bear dies.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Oh, well, what a great discussion, everyone. Mom, thanks again for joining us.
Welcome.
We
Thanks
really,
for having me.
yeah,
so
we had a
fun.
really good time. So listeners, you can find us on social media at WYSR_podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. You can email us at whatyoushouldreadpodcast@gmail.com. Look us up on Goodreads at What You Should Read Podcast, and give us a rating, a review, and subscribe to us wherever you're listening. And, thank you for joining us.
Yay. And now you know what you should read.
You're welcome.
I almost forgot our sign off.
I was just going to say, that was a long pause.